What's up, kids? How y'all doing? I'm back with another book breakdown. I'm going to go into some new territory today. We're going into the Iliad, getting started on that. Every 10 episodes, I guess, because I only have a handful of episodes. So, like, every 10 episodes, I kind of want to break some new ground and get into something new while sort of brushing up on some of the old. And so this morning I posted a compilation of some earlier stuff I did on Dostoevsky. And it came out, pretty decent as far as compiling some stuff. I did a little bit of editing and mashed a couple of earlier episodes together to kind of get a little bit of a broader sense of some of the storytelling aspect of what I do here. Instead of reading off my notes, like most of this stuff was pretty off the cuff, and I like that approach, so I kind of want to go back to that at some point. So I'm going to be trying some new things here and there. But for today, I'm going to do the Iliad, and I'm going to read off my notes, kind of like I've been doing, and just kind of get started on that one. In an earlier episode, I did read off of some of my early notes for the Iliad, and it was kind of scattered, wasn't very well composed, but I kind of got some of the main ideas from just the first few pages, and I'm going to go a little bit further today. I'll start again at the beginning, but this one's going to be a little bit more concise than last time. And so yeah, I want to break some new ground here. I've got some other books that I've gotten started. I've got the notes for a few other books here on my iPad, and I've got some ideas to get into some other books as well. And so yeah, I'll get started with the Iliad. Don my boomer glasses. And okay, so we've got Agamemnon, son of Atreus. Now, I'm probably going to mispronounce a lot of these names because I never took any classes in college or anything on the classics. And so everything that I know about this, I learned just from reading it. So please forgive me that I will most definitely mispronounce some of these names. I'm not good with the mythological names. I might even get creative and just if there's something I can't say, I'm just going to give it the most ridiculous pronunciation possible. Okay, so we've got Agamemnon, son of Atreus, and he is the king of the Achaeans, also the so-called Danaans. Okay, but really they're just Greeks, so they go by several names. So he's the king, but he also rules alongside his brother Menelaus. And together they're kind of like Andrew and Tristan Tate, just kind of like buzzing around in their Bugattis, fucking bitches and having a good old time. And at the same time, they're also fighting a war against the Trojans. And so they're kind of going around, pillaging and ransacking different towns and everything. But they've got some pretty big battles coming up. And then there's Achilles, son of Peleus. And so these two guys, Agamemnon and Achilles, really don't like each other at this point in the book, at the outset of the book, or poem, whatever. It's a poem. I think originally, well, from what I hear about Homer, is that he would like sit in front of like a whole like Colosseum or a little group of people in like with like a lute or something and sit on a stool and actually recite these myths while playing on his lute. And so he would, I guess back then that was almost like stand-up comedy. He would have his routine where he would go and play music and give like a rhyming account of all of these myths. I don't know if that's true. That's just, I read that somewhere. So, yeah, Achilles and Agamemnon really don't like each other. at the outset of the poem. And their quarrel was the result of some spiritual meddling by the gods, namely Apollo, who was angry at Agamemnon and so set him against his general Achilles. Now, prior to the opening of the Iliad, the Achaeans had sacked a small Trojan allied town called Lyrnessus, where Chryseis and Briseis were taken. They're two women, okay? Were taken as prizes to be given to Agamemnon and Achilles, respectively. And now, unbeknownst to the Achaeans, Chryseis was the daughter of a priest of Apollo named Chryses. So Chryses comes to the ships of the Achaeans and humbly and respectfully offers a ransom for his daughter to be returned. Now, the Achaeans are inclined to sympathize with the priest, but Agamemnon is prideful and spurns the request and disrespects the priest, which angers Apollo. Now, the priest Chryses goes to the beach and utters a prayer to Apollo, who listens and hears the prayer of Chryses and sets about a series of plagues and attacks on the Achaean army, shooting his own arrows at the soldiers and livestock. Now, this part of the book is reminiscent of Exodus in the Bible, where Moses and Aaron approach Pharaoh and demand the Israelites be freed to be able to go to the mountain for a festival to worship God. And Pharaoh is prideful in the same way as Agamemnon is here, putting his soldiers and people and livestock at risk and into direct attack. The only difference here is that Agamemnon learns his lesson a little quicker and decides to acquiesce to the priest's request. At first, Agamemnon didn't know why all this misfortune was befalling him and his army. It was the prophet Calchas who, much like Jeremiah in the Bible, calls it as it is, but is afraid to tell Agamemnon because he knows Agamemnon's anger will fester and eventually he will take it out on him and probably have him killed. And so Calchas goes to Achilles and tells him, "Look, I know why misfortune and plague has befallen us. It's because Apollo is angry at Agamemnon for turning Chryses away in disrespect and not giving back his daughter." Little did Achilles know that his own anger and his own falling out with Agamemnon as a result was also part of the punishment. So Achilles promises he will protect Calchas if he has to and won't allow any harm to befall him. So again, like Jeremiah, he was the bearer of bad news to the authority and was promised immunity so long as he told the truth. So Calchas goes to Agamemnon and announces sort of in front of everybody the reason for the sudden attack upon their army. The fact that it wouldn't let up until the girl was returned, without ransom specifically, and an offering in addition. And so that's a major L for Agamemnon, and so of course he was infuriated. So Achilles steps in, and he and Agamemnon are going back and forth with each other about whether to return the girl to her father. In anger, Agamemnon, realizing he doesn't have much choice, agrees to return Chryseis, but says he will take Achilles' prize, Briseis, as a consolation for himself. He has turned his anger against his own champion warrior. Not only that, it becomes personal because he has already become attached to Chryseis, who is much like his wife at home in many respects. And so he's become jealous of Achilles. If he has to lose this new prize, whom he's already fallen in love with, basically, and Achilles gets to keep his prize, that puts him in the danger of the other soldiers seeing that, and Achilles looking better than him. And so he was afraid his army might turn on him and overthrow him and place Achilles as their king. In addition, he has threatened to also take the prizes of Ajax and Ulysses, two other high captains in his army. Of course, Achilles takes this as an action of extreme disrespect towards himself personally, and humiliating in the face of his fellow soldiers. Even though he promised after their next victory, Agamemnon's prize would be granted fivefold or whatever, Not only was it a gesture of ill faith, as if Agamemnon wasn't sure they would win the upcoming battle, and that he didn't quite trust Achilles, it stripped Achilles of the honor of being the best soldier in command, which all the others acknowledged as his obvious position. He was a commander of the highest regard and indispensable in battle. Agamemnon basically spit in the face of his leading general. In many ways, Achilles is like Uriah from the Bible. Agamemnon being in the position, in this case, of David, I guess, in this particular exchange. He's not so much like David, but Achilles is more like Uriah. Angrily, Achilles answers, "Of all the nerve of you, who's going to want to fight for you? I've got no beef with the Trojans. They've never done anything against me, and I've got nothing to do with them. We've been here for you and your vanity, and that of your little brother, Menelaus. And you threaten to steal my bitch? Listen, I do all the work and all the fighting around here, and you take all the gravy. And I'm supposed to just be happy with whatever you leave me, after my men have risked their lives or died for you? Nah, man, I'm going home, dude. I'm not going along to keep making you rich." He didn't say that exactly, but that's my wording. You're going to hear a little bit of my wording in here, just so you know. Don't take any of this as gospel, because I'm going to fuck this shit up here real quick. And so Agamemnon responds, "Fine, take off. I'm not begging you to stay. I've got others to take your place. Not to mention Jove, the Lord of Counsel. There is not a king here who hates me as much as you. You're so contentious and moody. So you're brave. Heaven made you that way, so don't try to take credit. Take your ships and men and lord it over the Myrmidons." I don't know who the Myrmidons are, but sounds good. "I don't need you or your attitude. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Since Phoebus Apollo is taking Chryseis from me, I'll send her with my ship and my followers, but then I'm coming for your prize, Briseis, just to make an example out of you and show you I'm stronger." So at this, Achilles was furious and had a good mind to draw his sword and kill Agamemnon right then and there. Juno then sent Minerva, daughter of Jove, down from heaven, and she grabbed Achilles by his hair, but only he saw her. Upon seeing the fire flash in her eyes, he asked her, "Why are you here? To see the pride of Agamemnon? He will pay with his life." Minerva responded, "Stay your anger. Juno has sent me, for she loves you both." She said it just like that. "Stop fighting and do not draw your sword. Criticize him if you will. Give him hell, for it will not be in vain. You will receive gifts 3 times as splendid because of this insult. Just be patient and do as I bid." So Achilles agrees to this and thrusts his sword back in its scabbard. Then Minerva returned to Olympus and the house of her father Jove. But Achilles was still pissed, so he laid into Agamemnon. Basically called him a coward who never goes out to fight, who just steals the prizes of his own men and uses people for what he can get out of them. Then he declares that as much as the soldiers will need him in battle, he would ghost them and leave them in want. He would make himself scarce and abandon them. And as Agamemnon's men lay dying on the battlefield, he would rue the day he insulted his bravest warrior. And he called him a coward in addition to all that, who would be nothing without his crown. Achilles threw his scepter to the ground and sat down. And just as Agamemnon was about to get up and fight Achilles for his words, smooth-talking Nestor of Pylos, speaker of the Pylians, stood up and interjected that they should take his advice, for he had advised men greater than they, that Agamemnon should not take Achilles' prize, and that Achilles should cease taunting Agamemnon, that he should appreciate his position and be mindful that although Achilles had a goddess for a mother, Agamemnon has more men at his disposal, and that Agamemnon should quit this battle against Achilles, who is a most valuable asset on the battlefield. And, of course, they don't listen. They don't take Nestor's advice, and they each defied the other. Achilles said in the end that he wouldn't fight over the girl, but he'd kill Agamemnon if he tried to take anything else from him in addition. At that they dispersed, and Agamemnon sent Chryseis along with an offering on Ulysses' ship. And then he sent Talthybius and Eurybates to take Briseis from Achilles' tent. And when they arrive, although they fear Achilles, he does not try to stop them. He actually sends his own boy to bring her out to them, and she doesn't wish to go. He announces that he will not fight to save the Achaeans in their time of battle, because Agamemnon is taken by stubborn pride and is mismanaging his own army for it. And Achilles later wept over this, not because he loved the girl, but because he was being disrespected by Agamemnon. And so he called out to his mother, basically cried to his mom because he didn't get his way. His mother was sitting in the depths of the sea next to her father. So she came out of the water and sat with him while he cried. And she sort of patted him on his head and asked him to explain it all to her as if she didn't know already. So he recapped the whole story to her, how they sacked Thebe and divvied up the spoil, and gave Chryseis to Agamemnon, and how her father, the priest of Apollo, came to ransom his daughter, and how the Achaeans were all on board to respect him and return his daughter, except for Agamemnon, who was rough with the man and sent him on his way. So the man went back in anger and prayed to Apollo, and Apollo, who loved him dearly, sent a deadly attack upon the Argives, and sent many arrows, which killed many Achaeans. And so a soothsayer declared the oracles of Apollo, and Achilles recommended appeasement. And of course Agamemnon rose in anger and threatened to take Briseis. And now the Achaeans were en route to deliver Agamemnon's prize back to her father, along with sacrifices to Apollo. And the heralds have now taken his prize, Briseis, and were bringing her over to Agamemnon. He then asked his mother to go to Olympus and ask for help from Jove himself. So, basically, Zeus, the son of Saturn. Jove and Zeus are the same character. They're the same god. The idea here is that Jove owed his mother a favor for saving him from ruin when Juno, Neptune, and Minerva were going to put him in bonds. She had called to Olympus the hundred-handed monster, Briareus, or Aegeon, who sat beside Jove and scared the other gods so they did not bind him. So Achilles asked his mom to go to Jove, remind him of all of this, and bid him help the Trojans in the upcoming battle against the Achaeans. So, to help the enemy of his people is what he wants her to ask of Jove, for his own fellow soldiers to be trapped and killed, so that they can reap the consequences of their loyalty to Agamemnon, and for Agamemnon to regret his insult to Achilles. So he's willing to risk the death of his own people over this insult. So it just goes to show how petty these guys are. I mean, like, both him and Agamemnon, their anger against each other is so strong that they're willing to sacrifice their own fellow soldiers and their own people and their own army's strength and standing in the world just over all of this emotional drama. So Achilles' mother Thetis wept and cursed that she ever gave birth to him, and it would be great if he had lived his life free from sorrow, and that his life is destined to be short. She sincerely lamented that he should be short of life and long of sorrow among his peers. So she cursed the day in which he was born, yet she agreed to go to Olympus and entreat Jove to help him. In the meantime, stay here, suck your thumb, and don't do anything rash. But presently Jove was away at a feast with the Ethiopians, and the other gods went with him. He'd be back in about 2 weeks. After that, she'd hit him up and he'd probably be down. And then she sort of dipped back into the water and left him sitting there, still pissed off that his little girl toy had been taken. In the meantime, Ulysses reached Chryse with the girl in the hecatomb. He delivered her unto her father, and Chryse submitted a prayer on their behalf. So with that, they killed the sacrifices, prepared the meat, and ate the feast. And then they drank the wine, and they worshipped Apollo. The next morning, they returned to the Achaeans. So after 12 days, the immortal gods returned to Olympus, and Thetis remembered the promise made to her son Achilles. She rose from the water and went through great heaven to meet Jove on a ridge, and besought him on behalf of her son to bring victory to the Trojans until the Achaeans grant him recompense for the slight from Agamemnon. Jove was reluctant because he didn't want to fight with Juno, who would surely call him out for helping the Trojans, which she had done in the past. It would grant legitimacy to her prior accusations. So he sent her away so that Juno wouldn't find out they had been speaking, but he did assure her that he would grant her request. So Thetis returned to the sea, and Jove to his own house. When Jove returned to his house, all the gods rose in reverence, but Juno upbraided him at once, knowing that he had been plotting with Thetis. And of course she wasted no time in calling him out in front of the other gods for plotting behind her back, because she was his wife. Now, in a Wikipedia article that I looked up, because I was a little bit confused, Juno was named as Jove's sister. So perhaps there are some discrepancies between the different accounts throughout history regarding their relationship. Or he married his sister. One of the two. That wouldn't completely surprise me, but I don't know for sure. And so he responded by saying, basically, bitch, mind your own business. I don't have to report to you everything I do right away. I've got my reasons, and I'll let you know when I'm ready to let you know. She then protested, I do not pry into your business. You always do whatever you want, but I'm not too cool with Thetis having her way with you, and you allowing the slaughter of many Achaeans on behalf of her son Achilles. She said it just like that, too. And so he responds, bitch, quit spying. You always snooping on me. And it does you... And he responds, bitch, quit spying. You always snooping around on me. And it does you no good in the end. It just makes me dislike you even more. So yeah, it's kind of like that psycho girlfriend who goes rifling through your attic while you're at work trying to support her. And she confronts you with a couple of Playboys from 1982 that you stole from your dad when you were 12. And expects you to answer for it. And you're like, bitch, I buy your Fruit Loops. You come at me with this bullshit? You want to go live in your car and shower at the Planet Fitness? You want to go back and live with your moms? Yeah. That never happened. But, he told her, it is true what you say. This is what I intend to do. Now go sit down and shut your pie hole, because if I wanted to fuck you up, there'd be no one here to stop me. So watch your shit. And he did say that. Not really, but in a nutshell. So, of course, then she did shrink back in fear, of course. She's like suddenly playing the victim all of a sudden. She packed up all her girl power and sat the fuck down. But all the other gods were upset by the facts of the matter. That he would have many of the Achaeans killed on Achilles' behalf. And Vulcan began to try and pacify his mother Juno. Look, he said, it ain't worth it to get the whole house of heaven into an uproar over a pack of stinking mortals. It'll ruin dinner. So he bid his mother make amends with Jove, so as not to disturb the peace. So then he handed her a double shot of nectar, handed her a blunt basically, and said, "Smoke up, Ma. Don't get your toga in a bunch. I don't want to see you have to take a pimp slapping. Even though I don't like it, I can't really help you. Last time I tried to save you from him, he grabbed me by the foot and threw me out of the gates of heaven. Down, down, down I went until I landed flat on my back on the island of Lemnos, where I nearly died until the Sintians came and nursed me back to health." So Juno grabbed the blunt and took a big-ass hit and passed it down the line to the other gods. Puff, puff, pass, they all did in a clockwise rotation. And the gods laughed out loud in applause. For the rest of the day, they smoked blunt after blunt and got the munchies and ate all the food, down to the cranberries and cottage cheese, for they all had heavenly cotton mouth. And they were all satisfied, and Apollo busted out his acoustic guitar, and they all sat around the fire, singing Alice in Chains songs, nailing all the harmonies perfectly. All until it got dark. Then they all went home, back to their abodes, into their individual beds which Vulcan had made for them. And Jove put Vulcan to his own bed, and Juno by his side. Okay, so I'll end this one here. So that's it. That's what I got of the Iliad for now. It's a little bit choppy. It's a little bit clunky, but it is what it is. I've got a few of these. I kind of debated whether or not I should do one or two more, but I think I'll just keep it at that. I'm going to start keeping these a little shorter. That compilation I did was over an hour. It takes a long time to edit. It takes a long time to upload. So, I don't know. I want to get to the point where I'm not really editing these. Eventually, I'd like to start live streaming. Hopefully, one day I'll get some kind of audience. Live streaming sounds fun because I listen to mostly live streams. Most everything that I listen to is some long form live stream, but one of these days maybe I'll get a guest. Maybe I'll like do some StreamYard or whatever and do some interviews. I like to interview a few people. I want to just nobody famous really. I just want to interview my friends. I want to get some of my friends on here and talk to some people I know. There's a few people I got in mind I'd like to talk to. But yeah, I've been reading a bunch of other books too. I mean, what else do I got coming up on the slab? Well, as far as the next one I'm going to do part 3 of the Nyctalops. And that will wrap up the Thomas Ligotti little triptych of Nyctalops. Nyctalops. I don't even know if that's how you say it. That's just how I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I've seen the word written, and all I can do is try. I feel pretty good. I got some new socks on. I don't want to show them. My feet are kind of ugly, but I'm pretty stoked on these new socks. I'm wearing these pajama bottoms right now I got for Christmas. They're a little bit small, but the last pair I had were a little bit big, so maybe one of these days I can split the difference. What else is new? Okay, so what else have I been... Okay, so what else do I have here? So, I think I said I was going to do the Nyctalops next. I just released that Crime and Punishment one, and then here I did the Iliad, and then next one I'm going to do is Nyctalops. So I think after that I'm going to go... After that I'm going to go back into the geopolitics realm a little bit, and I will do... the Miles Copeland stuff. So I did a breakdown of the forewords to 2 different Miles Copeland books. One of them is Beyond Cloak and Dagger, and the other one is Game of Nations. And so I don't go very far into that. I just kind of cover the introduction so that I can lay a sort of groundwork for the foundation of that stuff, because I want to get into the CIA stuff at some point. And then after that, I'll do Childhood's End. So I've got a few. I got three of them lined up here. I've got the next. So the next ones I'm going to do are going to be Nyctalops by Ligotti, Miles Copeland's Beyond Cloak and Dagger and Game of Nations, and then Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End. And I've done. So that'll be part 2 of Childhood's End because I did part 1 already. And so that one gets a little bit political, and it gets into the conspiracy realm a little bit, which I like that stuff. I'm digging it. I'm going to go full, I don't want to say his name, I'm going to go full Lord Voldemort on it, to borrow Dyer's term. And what else? I mean, okay, so what have I been reading? So I got a couple of books from the library. I got the AI book, the Henry Kissinger with Eric Schmidt about AI. And that book is freaking scary, man. I started reading that, I'm thinking about AI, and it's talking about what, like the possibilities and what the future of AI is and how it's going to like fuck up all of our lives and just ruin everything. There's so much stress involved in all that. When it comes to like the whole conspiracy realm and like the news and current events and geopolitics, it's no wonder I'm freaking going bald, man. Like, I read that stuff and it just stresses me out. I did some reading in Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. And I'm kind of in a boring spot right now. I mean, it's not that it's really boring. It's kind of interesting, but when you read Tragedy and Hope, you're kind of reading it to get that whole, I mean, that's your conspiracy Bible, right? It is Tragedy and Hope. And so there's a lot in there, a lot of geopolitical history that basically proves, that we have a new world order that is that's in control of our government via the central bankers and every aspect of every institution that they've taken over and every globalist institution that they've erected, and it all comes out of the Cecil Rhodes Trust and the Milner Group, and it's changed names. There's different names for it: the Rhodes Milner Group, Milner's Kindergarten, the Royal Society, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and then so that's the British arm of it, and then the American arm of it would be the Council on Foreign Relations. And that was, at that point, that was when it sort of came to America. That was when they became in league with all the robber barons of the Eastern Seaboard elite. And so the Astors, the Morgans, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and so all of those families, they were the richest people in the world at the time. And so those were, them. In addition to the Rothschilds, they are the ones that created the Federal Reserve, and they were the ones who got Woodrow Wilson elected via interventions from Edward Mandell House. And that's another book that I just bought, volumes 3 and 4 of the Intimate Papers of Colonel Edward Mandell House. I had bought, is that a word? I bought volumes 1 and 2, and I started reading volume 1, and it's actually pretty good. I thought it was going to be like Tragedy and Hope and be all boring and stuff, but it's actually good. It's entertaining, and especially when it starts out and talks about Edward Mandell House's childhood, because he was raised during, like, right after the Civil War. So I mean, that fucker was old, man. It just goes to show how close we are to a lot of that history and how that stuff really wasn't that long ago. It's insane, actually, to think about it. I got the Kissinger Schmidt book from the library, and I also got I got the History of the Arab Peoples. Is that what it's called? and I can't remember the guy's name, and I don't have the book within reach right now. Maybe I'll go grab it. Maybe I'll go grab a couple of books. The Age of AI and Our Human Future. That's the Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Huttenlocher. This book is scary. It freaked me the fuck out when I was reading it. I'm surprised I didn't have nightmares. It's just talking about AI and what it's going to do to us. Okay, so here's the history of the Arab peoples. I got this from the library. And it is written by Albert Hourani. And I've seen this around. And so I've been wanting to get into Middle Eastern history and the history of the Arabs, you know, with the whole Israeli-Arab conflict that's going on right now. It's good stuff to know. I mean, this is not modern Middle East history, where like the Americans are involved. So this is like the history of the Arab people going all the way back. So I look forward to reading this. And speaking of like Islamic history, this right here, this book is crazy. So this guy, he's like the president of the Netherlands. His name's Geert Wilders. And I've been following this guy for a long time. I was listening to him. Actually, I stumbled upon him on YouTube as I was studying Dutch, because he was somebody who was easy for me to understand, because he spoke in a very measured, kind of slowish, very paced kind of tempo, and I could understand the guy. And so I was listening to him. He was like a parliamentarian at the time, and I would listen to his debates, and I just remember like all the liberals in the Dutch parliament hated him and said he was really racist and he was like a fascist and all this stuff. But he wasn't really. He's just somebody who really hates the effect that the Islamic influence in the Netherlands and how it's just kind of destroyed their culture there. And so that book, I was reading that book, and it really goes into the history of Islam. And it's very anti-Islam, I would have to say. It's very biased against Islam, and it's very pro-Israel. And so I guess he lived in Israel as a teenager. He sort of moved there and worked on farms and stuff. And so he experienced a lot of the stuff firsthand. He saw a lot of, fighting going on. And so he definitely is one who takes the side of Israel in this whole conflict that's going on. Basically, they're doing everything right, and, the Palestinians are all wrong. So, according to him. And, I've heard a lot of arguments on both sides. I've been listening to Saifedean's podcast, the Bitcoin guy. What's his name? Saifedean Ammous. I don't know how to say his last name. He's Palestinian. And so it was interesting to hear his take on the entire conflict. He's a very intelligent guy. And so yeah, I actually saved that on my playlist, the Saifedean interview. And I tend to listen to that a few times. One of the things I've been doing is collecting these Library of America volumes, and this one is the debate on the Constitution. So I got this one. I got the George Washington one, and these things are like over 1,000 pages. So the pages are like Bible pages. So this thing is over 1,000 pages, and this one's like 1,200 pages. And so I got the George Washington one. It's like all of George Washington's writings and letters, and this one right here is like, this contains like the Federalist and Anti-Federalist speeches, articles and letters during the struggle over ratification. This is part 1, September 1787 through February 1788. And so I kind of meant to talk about the Arab thing a little bit longer, but I got this one too, Grant. I guess I can read this and find out who is in Grant's tomb. I would imagine Grant is in Grant's tomb. So this is Grant's memoirs and selected letters. Ulysses S. Grant. What was that one movie? Dr. Detroit. He's all, Ulysses S. motherfucking Grant. Welcome to the neighborhood, brother. He's all counting the $50 bills. The fucking chauffeur. Diablo. Okay, so I did. Okay, so what was the other one I got? I got Thomas Paine's one, and so I read most of the way through Common Sense. So Common Sense is pretty good. Common Sense is something I think that every American really needs to read, like now, before it's too late, kind of thing. To Common Sense. I mean, it's all common sense, right? No, but it talks about independence, our need for independence, and part of the problem with our our leftist entitled contingent here in America that wants to like socialize everything and nationalize everything and like, basically give free food and free healthcare and free housing to everybody as if these things are just basic human rights in themselves. It's funny that they'll argue and say that, like, oh, well, like in the Constitution, it only protects freedom of speech against Congress, not against, big tech. No, big tech can shut you down, but, like, Congress is the only ones who can't shut you down because it's only, in the Bill of Rights, it only says Congress can't limit your freedom of speech, but everybody else can. And so, like, those same people are the same people that think that the government should have to pay your rent and pay all your bills and pay for your food and pay for your health care and pay for all your clothes. And basically all your living expenses are just taken care of and you don't have to work for anything anymore. So yeah, I mean, Common Sense, when you read Common Sense, it stresses the importance of independence. That's what the Declaration of Independence is about. It's about being independent and not being dependent on the government. So when you're dependent on the government, you're not independent. And when you're not independent, you don't have freedom and you're under tyranny. If you're not independent, what are you? Okay, you're under tyranny. And so these fucking entitled dumb fucks just can't seem to understand or comprehend the concept of independence. And, they talk about, oh, well, it's a threat to democracy. Nowhere in the Constitution does it mention democracy. We are a republic. We are not a democracy. We've never been a democracy. We don't want to be a democracy. Okay? The problem with democracy is only majorities ever win. Minorities are not represented in a democracy. Okay, this is why we have representational government. And a lot of these same people are the same people who cry and bitch and moan about the Electoral College and say it's not in the Constitution. The Electoral College is in the Constitution. It's in like Article 3. Okay, it describes the electoral. It doesn't say Electoral College, but it completely describes the Electoral College, that you elect the electors who elect the president. Okay, so this is in the Constitution. This is not something Republicans came up. Well, yeah, these people were Republicans with a lowercase r. They were Republicans because they supported a republic. But this isn't the GOP. The GOP did not invent the Electoral College. It's in the Constitution. Okay, so the history of the Arab peoples. I already talked about this book. This is Albert Hourani. Okay, but not only did I check this out from the library, I also got this. I bought this from Half Price Books. The Arabs. Okay, The Arabs, A History by Eugene Rogan. So another fat book. So I'm going to read that too. So I've got all this history of the Arabs in addition to what I read from Parrot Wilders, where he really just, he just destroys Islam in here. His main contention is that he says Islam is not a religion. It's a political ideology. And he gives all these reasons why it's not a religion, because you can't leave it voluntarily, and that a lot of people too will say that, in the the Quran's a peaceful book, and like everything is good in the Quran. These are people who haven't read the Quran, okay, and I haven't read much of it either, so I'm not going to even go there. But one of the things he talks about is he says that religion is not based on the Quran alone. It's not like a sola scriptura type of religion. It's like a threefold religion that comes from the Quran itself, and then I'm guessing from just traditional practices, but also from using the life of Muhammad as an example. And that's sort of the main thing, that using Muhammad's life as an example. And that guy did a lot of pretty crazy, messed up, disgusting shit. And so pretty much everything he does is halal. So like whatever he did, you just do what he did, okay? But it's not to say that there's not moderates out there, and it's not to say that most people, most Muslims are just, nice people just trying to go about their lives and finish their college degrees and everything. But basically, according to the fundamentals of the system itself, there's a lot of crazy stuff that is allowed and tolerated, such as when people leave. When people decide they don't want to be part of the religion anymore, it's okay to kill those people. And so he says that that's not a religion. That's not a respectable religion that is going to kill people who leave. And so these are the reasons he gives. These are his words, not mine. I don't have a dog in the fight. I really don't care about any of it, honestly. I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting historical tidbit, but to me, I take no stock in any of this. I don't go one way or the other. But he says a lot of the things about Islam that most liberals try and cover up. And a lot of people don't want you talking about because it's not palatable for Western acceptance. There's a lot of really brutal activity, and a lot of the punishments for the punishments for apostasy, and they have really brutal capital punishments. And so he just goes and describes a lot of it. And I think some of it's probably kind of biased, I mean, honestly. But, I mean, I've seen examples of a lot of that stuff just in the news, and throughout history. And I'm going to read about it in these books about the Arabs, so whatever is in there. I don't want to go too much into that, honestly, but I do find the history of all this to be important. And I've already done some episodes on the history of Israel from the vantage point of Howard M. Sakar, from his history of Israel. What is it, from the rise of Zionism to our time is the subtitle of his book. And so, I mean, obviously this guy is, he has a dog in the fight to some degree. I don't really know a lot about Howard Sakar, honestly. I'll probably look into him a little bit more. But I started doing the breakdowns of that book before October 7th. And so I plan on going further with that book at some point. So another book I found at Half Price Books is The Right to an Answer by Anthony Burgess. And you all know that I did do a breakdown of The Wanting Seed. Another one I've been reading is The Long Day Wanes, and I do plan on getting to that as well. I haven't done a breakdown of that one yet. I got started on Henry Kissinger's White House Days. I didn't get too far. I mean, how far did I get? I'm on page like 40. Okay, so, here's a book I got. The Memoirs of George Kennan. Okay, that should be kind of interesting. There was another book that was there. I was like, which one should I get? Because there was one that was like George Kennan, his political philosophy. And I thought, I'd rather hear the dirt. I'd rather hear about some of the fucked up shit that he's done. And a lot of people in their memoirs, they kind of brag about the fucked up shit they've done. So I figure it's in here. It's in here somewhere. So I'll read this. I found a nice copy of David Copperfield, Charles Dickens. I did read most of Christmas Carol. I got through Marley, The Ghost of Christmas Past, and The Ghost of Christmas Present. So I still have to read The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. And that one was kind of crazy. It just kind of made me feel guilty for not like decorating the house with Christmas ornaments, because I don't really do a lot for holidays. I'm not a big holiday person, and that book is just like, oh well, the kid had a good Christmas. God bless us, everyone. Okay, and then I was reading this. I was reading this like 2 days ago. The Milner-Fabian conspiracy. And then so this is cool. So this basically talks about, where was I in the Milner-Fabian conspiracy? It basically talks about how, so the liberal capitalist bankers, how they sort of bankrolled socialism on a global scale. And so how we talked about the Milner, no, it's Milner-Fabian, the Milner-Fabian conspiracy. So they're talking about the same group, this Milner group, the Cecil Rhodes group that I was talking about, who is the New World Order. This is the group that is the trunk of the tree with all its branches going out into basically controlling the world. And it talks about how this entity, this group, they're backed by international bankers, and they've got their tentacles in every institution of modern life. And how it basically says that their aims, their goals, are international socialism, doing communism, but not in a Soviet way. Instead in more of a Fabian socialist way. So I've got that McBriar Fabian Socialism book, and I plan on getting back to that pretty soon as well, and kind of brush up on that stuff. I've got this great book list on my Amazon sort of wish list. It's not public, it's private, but I've got this whole section that's all like a Milner-Fabian list of its own, and it's got Fabian socialism stuff in there. So the writings of Beatrice and Sidney Webb. That was another thing I was gonna get into. I was gonna say something about Whitney Webb. I haven't read any of her stuff too recently, but I do plan on like getting into her books a little bit more. They're so convoluted, though. I mean, there's so much there. I've read like the first 100 pages, and it's really hard to, like, if I was to try to recall some of it to you just off the top of my head, I'd really be hard pressed to do it, because there's so much detail and so many people. I think when I was doing the history of Sakhar's History of Israel book, I was going down and breaking down I went through the cast of characters. I talked about Moses Hess and Theodor Herzl and all these people. And I think I did a pretty decent job I went through Wikipedia and looked up each person in the cast of characters. And so I'm going to start doing a little bit more breakdowns of like cast of characters. And Whitney Webb's book needs its own cast of characters. You need to go through and identify who everybody is and how they're related. And the same goes for the Milner Group stuff too. The Carol Quigley, the Anglo-American Establishment. I was listening to an interview with Kurt Metzger. I think that's the guy, right, from Jimmy Dore's show, and he says that reading. He said what I was trying to say, but he was a little bit more on the nose with it. He said that reading the Anglo-American Establishment by Carol Quigley he said it reads like the Book of Numbers, because the whole thing is just like a genealogy. It's just like this person begat this person, begat this person, begat this person. And that's what it's like. I think I said it was like reading through the white pages. And so that's pretty accurate. Oh, and what did I order? I ordered one off of Amazon. Okay, so I did order volumes 3 and 4 of Colonel Edward Mandell House's Intimate Papers, so that would complete that set. And then I ordered Trilaterals Over Washington by, what is his name? James Wood? No, not James Woods. Ronnie Wood. What's that guy's name from the Rolling Stones? Something Wood. What's the guy's name? Anthony Sutton, Trilaterals Over Washington, volumes 1 and 2. What was the other one? Who's the Wood guy? Trilaterals Over America? That one also is by Anthony Sutton. But who's the other guy? There's another guy that helped him write it. Oh, okay, Patrick Wood. I I missed it. Okay, so Trilaterals over Washington, volumes 1 and 2, is written by Anthony Sutton and Patrick Wood. Okay, so Patrick Wood's the guy I was looking for. So Patrick Wood, I think, also wrote Technocracy Rising. Let's look that up. Technocracy Rising. Yeah, Patrick Wood. And it's got like, I mean, like that. Even the book cover looks similar. Technocracy Rising by Patrick Wood. See, I have that. I have a PDF version of that. I'm trying not to buy books I already have the PDFs of. I'm trying to get myself to read the PDFs because I really don't want to. I like reading physical books better. I hate reading PDFs. Hurts my eyes. Plus, I just feel like I never get done. Like with a book, you can turn it over and look at it and see how far you are in the book. You're like, yeah, I'm like that far in the book. But like when you're on a PDF, it feels like it just never ends. So I don't like that part of it. But anyway, that's it. That's all the books. That's all I got for now. I mean, I was talking about the books I was reading just on, I think when I did the Zbigniew Brzezinski episode. Was that episode 22? 21? 22? I don't know. And then I did the Russian episode. How'd you like that? Did some foreign language. I did actually go down another rabbit hole, and I did prepare another Russian video. I'm going to rotate between Russian, Dutch, Spanish, and Italian, because those are the languages that I do best. I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm not very good with languages. As much time as I put into it, I should be totally fluent in like 5 different languages, but I'm not. I don't retain this shit very well. My brain is like mush. And, if you've seen me talk, you know that I'm kind of a slow boy. I've got like early onset, I mean, I don't want to say I've got early onset Alzheimer's, but it feels like it, man. I feel senile half of the time. I watch back on my videos and I'm just like, fuck, dude, what happened to you? Like, my brain works so much slower than it did when I was a kid. I used to talk so fast when I was a kid. And then I deliberately slowed down my speaking when I took a public speaking class in college, and as I studied NLP, I sort of forced myself to slow down a little bit because people don't really listen to you when you talk super fast. It's distracting, and if you don't pace yourself well when you speak, then you lose your audience. And so I started talking really slow, but then as a consequence, I started thinking slow, and then I got that stupid jab. Once I got that jab, man, I think I got brain fog from that jab. And I think it's starting to kind of go away a little bit. But I made a bunch of videos during the time when I was still having my slow moments after the jab. And I was not doing well from that. So, just so you know, man, that thing messed me up. But I'm getting better from it. I have issues with my knees and my elbows and just my connective tissue in general. It sucks. Never again. I'm not doing it again. You do what you want. I'm not giving life advice here, but I'm not doing it again. There's a lot of things I don't want to do. I'm not doing CBDCs. I actually am preparing to do an episode on NLP. And I've got a bunch of NLP books. And for a long time, I studied NLP via the Richard Bandler, John Grinder kind of school, as they were influenced by Gregory Bateson and what was the hypnotist guy, the guy from the wheelchair? What was his name? Not Ginger Baker. Milton Erickson. They had a 2-volume set about Milton Erickson and his therapy techniques. That Milton Erickson guy is a real character. So I wanted to talk about NLP, the basics of NLP, sort of how it got started, how it evolved, and how later it came to be used by pickup artists and who were using like hypnosis techniques in their pickup art. When you read Neil Strauss's The Game, he talks about some of these guys and how they were using hypnosis techniques, when they were trying to pick up chicks. And so, like I read that book, and I read some of the other stuff, some of that early pickup artist literature that was out sort of before the kind of Rollo Tomasi school of red pill. Basically, what I was getting at there is that this guy, he's like kind of that new school of pickup artists. He teaches courses on how to get laid and stuff. And I never went that far with any of it, but I realized that that's the whole thing. When you get into that whole scene, that red pill movement is really all about just being an influencer. And I mean, they didn't have like YouTube live streaming and stuff when I was kind of into that whole PUA thing, because I was like part of like that first movement, the Mystery and Neil Strauss during that time, Tony Klink and all these guys. I'd read their books. They sell those books at Barnes and Noble, and I bought a grip of those books, and I kind of like put together my own skill set and developed I really like actually wrote my own book pretty much, but I had friends that tried to egg me on to release it as a book, to publish it, but a lot of it wasn't my own material, and a lot of it was just kind of compiled from stuff I'd learned from other people. I had a lot of my own material in there, but so like probably about half of it was mine, but then about half of it was borrowed from other people. So I didn't want to have to go through and like reference everything, or I just didn't want to be known for that. I didn't want that to be my thing. I didn't want to be one of these red pill guys. But see, that's the thing. When you're a pickup artist or you're like a red pill guy, basically your job is now you're the guy who's going to go and teach everybody. And you're going to have a course. And you're going to make these losers pay thousands of dollars to learn how to pick up bitches, And it's kind of stupid, I think. It's the whole thing of like like those guys that are like, how to be a millionaire. Like these guys aren't millionaires. Like these dudes, they put up these courses on how to get rich, and there's a whole industry, or they call it like a cottage industry. And I knew this other guy who was from Hawaii, and he had this like surfboard religion. he was like, yeah, man, I'm like this spiritual guy, dude, and like, man, like I get this energy from you, man. Like you got like these sort of like colors all around you. You got like these indigos just kind of pouring off of you, man. And like his whole thing was that he lived in Hawaii, and he got all these like well-to-do like divorcees to like give him all their money, and he was like a life coach for like all these like rich people. But this dude was a total alcoholic, homeless bum. Like, I couldn't figure it out. I don't want to say the guy's name because he knows like a lot of people I know. But I mean, like I said, cottage industry. It's a whole cottage industry of people trying to teach you how to be cool, and those people, they're losers. And I'm not saying Rollo Tomasi is, but it's like it's kind of gay, man. It's kind of dumb, and I'm not saying gay is dumb, but it is, man. It's kind of gay. There's something kind of gay about a bunch of dudes teaching other dudes how to get laid, and then going out together and practicing. It's gay. Sorry. And so, but I did it all on my own. I was like a lone wolf when it came to like the pickup arts, and I'm not even into this shit anymore at all. Like, this is not even my thing. I don't do this stuff anymore. This is like the old me. This is me. I quit doing this shit like 15 years ago. But, in the early 2000s, I mean, I had a corner of the market because I had a position where I was already doing it anyway. And when I discovered all these books and this movement. And later I kind of, got into the movement, and I did, contact some people online who were putting out some of this material. And I did find that one guy from, one of the characters in the game is this goober named Tyler Durden. Well, he calls himself Tyler Durden, the guy from Fight Club. But that was just like his pseudo. I don't remember. He goes by his normal name now. But now he's like this old fat bald guy with a beard. And he still puts out these videos like, oh, how to have like a magnetic personality. Like, it's like these guys are still selling their craft. And I mean, I dipped out of it. I was in it while I was while I was still young and marketable and doing that shit. And now that I'm like a old fuck, I don't do that shit anymore. Like, you gotta know when to stop doing certain things. And, you know, honestly, I kind of feel that way about my music. I'm always gonna play music. I'm always gonna play guitar, and I'm always gonna do things. I'll probably always record. But as far as going out and setting up gigs and begging my friends to come to my shows, I'm just can't do it anymore, man. I'm almost 50 years old. So I don't want to be in my 50s begging people to come to fucking rock clubs to come see my band and then play in front of 12 fucking people. That's just no. I'm not into that anymore. I'm going to stop doing that. So, I mean, I haven't had a band together for a long time. If my crypto goes to the moon, I'll hire a drummer to come in and do drum tracks, and I'll keep putting out albums. You know, I'll just release albums, and if people want to listen to them, they'll listen to them. But I'm not going to fucking beg, man. I'm over that. I'm too fucking old. I'm too old to be getting started. And if I was going to have success in my career when I was younger, it would have happened already. It's not going to happen now. It's not like I'm going to be some fucking rock star. You know, that's a young man's game. Just like that pickup artist shit. It's young man's playtime. And there comes a time where you need to fucking grow up and move on to other shit. And that's why I'm reading books, and I'm all into conspiracy theories and making dumb videos and doing book breakdowns. To me, that's useful. I mean, book breakdowns are cool. I kind of like that thing. I like that Dostoevsky video I just put out. I mean, it's a little bit ugly, you know. Like, I look a little unkempt on there. Kind of look like a little bit of a dirtbag, but yeah, I'm working on it. Those were some of my first episodes. You know, I like at the very end how you see that one where my hair is all long and it's like sticking straight up. I look like that guy from the fucking Alien videos. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to say that I do intend on doing an NLP episode where I go back and bring out all my old NLP books, and I'm going to relate it with the whole pickup artist thing because it's funny how it fits in. What I was going to say about this new school of red pill guys, they don't really have the NLP thing in there. That's not a part of it. And a lot of people, I think, looked at the NLP thing as being kind of sleazy because it was sort of like, I mean, NLP can be used for a lot of stuff. I mean, they use it in sales. I mean, if you can use it in sales, I mean, that is really, I don't know if that's any more like ethical, you know, than to use it in pickup. But there's nothing really unethical about it. I think that just using NLP in itself, I think that only certain kinds of people are susceptible to that kind of thing anyway. You know, hypnosis is something, you know, you're using voice tone and storytelling and body movement, body language, and all that stuff. And yeah, that Jonathan Pigstein guy does fucking body language. He sells a body language course, like how to tell if a woman's into you, and he charges these dipshits like $1,000. And the guy's like a millionaire. He has like thousands of people in his fucking course. It's like the fucking Macho Man course. Take my toxic masculinity course and learn how to be a fucking dickhead. You know, basically. Learn how to call people out on social media and try and fight guys who live in fucking India and Dubai or whatever. Yeah, we're going to Dubai, man. When we're there, we're going to find that one guy. We're going to kick his ass, man. But, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, I just thought I'd make fun of the red pill guys for a minute because it is pretty silly. But anyway, that's it. That's the end of my postscript. Over and out. Later.